Overwatch can be a very frustrating game. Tilt, rank anxiety, blaming teammates, just general raging, or even just the inconsistency of play. And I think it's really important to understand why these things happen and how you can control them. I had the opportunity recently to talk with Martina. She's a sports psychologist that's recently worked with the Toronto Defiant, but she's worked with a lot of esports and sports professionals as a whole and how to level their game up. And even if you're not aiming to be a professional, if you're just a bronze, silver, gold ranked player, you're going to benefit a lot from this talk. We're going to be talking about the 3 pillars of performance: movement, diet, and sleep, and more specifically, how to actually implement those things in a way that's going to change how you think and play in game. You see, everyone knows these things are healthy to do, but how and why are they useful in terms of making you actually play better? We're going to talk about that and really maybe most importantly at all, how to actually apply those things in a reasonable format. I don't have time to go to an hour to the gym. I'm not going to eat perfectly clean. I'm not going to be sleeping 9 hours a day. So what's the point of all this? Well, we're going to talk about how to actually apply those habits in a much more reasonable format without burning you out. Big shout out to Martina for taking the time to talk with me. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Enjoy the podcast. What are some key points of practice and improvement that you find that sports psychologists focus on that we could learn to focus on more, and how are they applicable for the average player? Things like sleep, mindset, and so on.
So when I start working with teams, I start usually from our fundamentals. And if you think about fundamentals for anyone's health and well-being, those are usually nutrition, so what you eat, what you consume, sleep, how you rest, take breaks, take care of your energy levels and fatigue, and movement. Right? Those 3 are kind of the basic physiological needs of human beings to maintain our energy levels on a consistent level, right? And high, so that we can perform. All of these 3 points touch on mental health, right? Because if you move, if you eat well, if you sleep and rest well during the night, you will feel better, right? Your mental health will be maintained, and you will basically be more sharp. Your concentration will be like, you'll be alert, and basically it does impact on all of the psychological variables as well. So those are kind of that's kind of a staple that we always start from, with some education about sleep, some education about movement. And I always say movement, I don't say gym. And this is something that players misunderstand. Like, we in esports, you're not expected to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to lift I don't know how much weight, or do like a lot of cardio or something. You just need to do basic stuff, like 2-3 times a week. The important thing is consistency there, because in the end, it is a sedentary activity. And what we're trying to do is combat all of that sitting down, the posture, the basically being still. With all of that energy, we need to kind of give it some kind of an outlet. And again, in that way, take care of both of our physical and mental health.
That makes sense. I mean, the demographic of people that are playing video games, especially competitively, are going to be largely young men and boys who are overall going to be very attracted to the idea of lifting heavy weights and throwing things around and testosterone and push. But ultimately, like, while that may be attractive and it may be even healthy, it may not be ultimately sustainable or attainable immediately for a lot of people. So even if that is your ultimate goal, you're saying that at the base level, we just need to start moving first.
Correct. And I literally mean moving, like stand up, take a walk. Like, I'm having this interview now on my feet. I'm not sitting down, and this is on purpose, right? For multiple reasons. A, I'm already feeling more active. B, like, I will see me like bouncing around a little bit, right? Because you know how they say the best posture is the next one. So if we're constantly like still and like in this kind of tense position, and of course like using the keyboard and mouse, it's really important to take those breaks, to stand up, etc. So one thing you mentioned, and I do want to bring it up, like these young guys come like 17, 18 to 22, 3 years old, and then they see, okay, there's a performance coach, and then they can help us. Like, main thing is like get big, like be muscular and like lift and whatever. And then they come, and sometimes my role as well is to say, calm down, like let's start easy, right? Because what I've seen, because of course there is always this this dance between like what the player wants and what the player needs, right? And how can we actually find what is the need rather than the desire? We need to base it on some kind of knowledge, right? So what I try to tell them, like, hey, if you start hard, and I've seen that, you're gonna end pretty soon, right? You're not gonna want
Yeah.
it, because what's gonna happen if you start working out hard? You're gonna be in pain. If you've never worked out hard, that pain is gonna be very annoying. You're gonna come
Of
to
course.
scrims, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna feel like trash. You're gonna be fatigued. You're not gonna be able to maintain concentration. You're gonna be hungry all the time. Like you wanna sleep more, right? You can't do that and then expect to compete at the highest level.
What are some basic starts to improving my posture or incorporating movement into like the daily routine that aren't going to take hours and hours away?
Great question. And again, what we try to do always is identify what's the lowest hanging fruit. Because if you again start with something hard or that strains you and that you see that you have negative impact in your game, what players do is immediately give up, right? Doesn't matter. What I would answer to that or is with a question, right? So
Mm.
ask yourself, what do you, from your opinion and from your experience, think that is hindering your performance the most out of game? Is it bad sleep? Is it lack of movement? Is it poor nutrition habits? Just pick one, okay? Say that it's movement. Okay, easy. Wherever you live, no matter how hot or cold it is, a 10-minute to 15-minute walk is usually achievable,
Yeah.
right? So you need to start getting into some type of a rhythm of a routine. So what I usually recommend is, okay, you're a ranked player, you want to start getting some of these health habits in. Okay, start really easy. 10 minutes in your day, and you probably have minimum 14 waking hours. Okay, so 10 minutes of that is nothing.
Right.
Okay, so you start and say, I'm going to do my movement in the first part of the day or in the latter part of the day. Just decide, okay, in some type of, in some frame frame of time, right?
Yes.
What I suggest is always in the beginning of the day. Why? Because it happens to me, it happens to everyone. You go to work or you go to play, etc., and you start. You go from the bed to the table, and you play and you play and you play and play, and you forget about the time, the food, and everything. And then all of a sudden, you raise your head up, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm exhausted." And what do you want to do then?
Right.
Nothing. You want to order in, you want to chill and watch TV, and then you want to talk to your friends and go to sleep, right? So what I do, what I always suggest is whatever you're trying to incorporate in your life to change your lifestyle, to improve your health habits, do it in the first part of the day, right? Dedicate
Makes
10
sense.
minutes at start and then see. Also, there's something interesting when it comes to walking, and the more you walk, the more routine it becomes, the more you want to walk. And again,
Hmm.
you have to try this to actually feel the impact it has on you. And then you won't need anyone poking you, go walk, go walk. You will actually have a drive when you wake up to say, oh, this, because this works for me, right? It makes me feel better. I'm more active. I sit down and I play and I'm already kind of set up for success. Small things, start small.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, I know personally for me, walking has been a big thing for me because it gives me time to think. It gives me time to contemplate about the work that I need to do that day and what I need to be doing and giving me new ideas. But I guess for the average player, what other benefits, or maybe that is one of the benefits that walking provides, because how does movement translate into playing the game better?
Movement or energy generates more energy, right? So if you
Mm.
slump down in a chair and your posture is like this and you're looking down and like, I mean, you can try it yourself, literally do it like this for 5 minutes and put the lights down, and I guarantee you that in 10 minutes you will really feel awful. You will,
Yeah,
right? So energy generates energy, think of that. And all of the time when the players are here, we try to refer to it as tangible as they can imagine. So what players can understand is like, how much energy do I have, right?
right.
Like, how active do I feel?
Of
So
course.
try, honestly, from bed to the table, and then try another day from bed, take a walk, and then go to your desk, right? Just try it for yourself. Again, um, I realize no matter how much knowledge you have, and if I'm a PhD, if I'm a doctor, if I'm a Nobel Prize winner, doesn't matter. You need to try it yourself, right? Like
Of course.
to trust someone, sure, you can trust someone from your circles, but to believe someone and to try because that person said it, no, it's going to be because you feel it. Give it a shot, see what works for you. Walking is one thing, going to a gym and walking on a treadmill is another thing,
Sure.
doing a bike or doing some basic movement cardio in the gym again or at home, it works as well.
Let's say that movement is something that I'm already doing relatively well at. Nutrition feels like an even more complicated animal, and something that obviously feels like every single day everyone's telling me that you need to avoid this or avoid that, or actually this is good and actually this is bad. And obviously for somebody that may be very busy and grinding and working, that seems like way too complicated a topic to even bother with. So how do you recommend getting into nutrition as like there's a 10 minutes walking equivalent of nutrition? Is there such a thing as that?
I think so, yeah. We start with schedules. And why?
Okay.
Again, and you will see how this will all be connected. The movement,
Sure.
the food, and the sleep. That's
Sure.
why, like, the more you can connect your habits, they will encourage each other, right?
Of
And
course.
discourage each other as well. And I will
Sure.
tell you an example. Schedule. If you have a schedule, like we said, you wake up, you go and take a walk, and then you go to the desk. And then you eat in this time frame, right?
Mm.
From 1 to 3 p.m. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
always, every day.
Sure.
And I have dinner every day from 6 to 9 p.m. Have time frame for when you have the meals. And
Ah,
I'm
got it.
not even talking about what are you eating. That's another beast, like you say. And again,
Right.
I'm not a nutrition. I'm literally talking about habits here. So if you
Right.
have that schedule of like movement, and then you have time from when you eat, and then you play your thing, you will become hungry again every day. Your body is going to expect food at the same time. Think about it. Our
Right.
brain, although we are evolved as human beings, we're very complex, but our brain is very primitive, and what our brain loves is repetition, habits, every day the same. Amazing. Why? Because then your brain doesn't have to waste energy, talking about energy again, to adjust, to change. That that wastes energy. We need to use energy for decision making, to
Mm.
change anything in our lives, right? This is why I talk about consistency so much, so because your brain then will seek that schedule, will seek
Interesting.
those activities that you have already implemented and have done for day to day to day for weeks and months on. Then it doesn't require any effort
So
over time. Yes,
inconsistency can be exhausting, you're saying.
yes, 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 yes. Very
Fascinating.
exhausting.
Fascinating. So I guess then moving off of that, you're not even talking about the nutritional aspect of things. You're just talking about having a schedule with eating. Um, one of the things that I like to say for some of my students that I work with is even though nutrition can be a whole nother animal, is that something that you can apply simplicity to as well? Like, let's say that we're not sure what the best foods to eat and not eat are, but we could probably guess that having a little fruit, eating a little bit less sugar, low hanging fruit, as you said, are useful. Is that something that's easy enough to incorporate into that schedule?
There's definitely some don't do's like that apply to every single human being, no matter how old are you, where you from, it affects you the same, right?
Sure.
So there's some studies that simply show factual data that, for example, eating unhealthy fats, let's say fried food, ultra processed, etc.,
Hmm?
decreases the circulation and like the oxygen input you have to your brain, right? After you eat
Right.
that. What you put in your body is what you can expect as an output. Okay? Trash
Right.
in, trash out. That's how I call it. Okay? So if this thing here called body is all you will have for the rest of your life, what's
True.
better thing to take care of than the body? Because what you put in it is what you're going to expect um, as an outcome, right? And everyone knows what are the you shouldn't and you shoulds. Like this is not,
Right.
this is very basic stuff, right? I mention schedules to start with because say, and I've seen this a lot. Like you order in food and you eat just before you play, or you eat while you play. Oh my! Like firstly, you're not focused. Secondly, you're gonna digest as you play. And then you're not gonna have enough energy and focus to actually play and do what you need
Mm.
to do, right? So like separating that already is enough. Again, ultra processed food, fried foods, anything heavy carb, gluten, just before you want to play or perform is not recommendable. I mean, again, please do test it yourself, and take it with a grain of salt, because I've seen people who are really used to like burgers every day, fries, fried chicken,
Yes.
whatever, and then they come, and I love this argument, and they say this helps me play better. I'm like, based on what? It's like, yes, because I remember like when I ate this one day, I played the best. Let me
Right.
tell you another thing. This also applies to the socks you're wearing that day. And let me break it to you. This really doesn't matter at all. And
Right.
this is this superstitious behavior that I've seen. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is something that is really hard to fight, because no matter what, how much data I show you, like routines do make a difference, rituals as well. Superstition is pretty bad, right?
Right. Right.
It can really it can really backfire, right? But when it comes to foods like that, again, with a grain of salt, but try one day to have a full bolognese pasta or plate of pasta 30 minutes before you play, and then you go play. Okay. Then the next day or 2 days after, try to have chicken and rice. Again, I'm saying the most basic thing.
Sure.
2.5 hours before you play, 2 hours, and then see how it feels.
Sure.
Okay, I guarantee you, sluggish, low energy. It will be the case with like heavy carb loaded fatty
Right.
foods, and the latter you will feel lighter. Like I have players, again, I'm talking about professional players who prefer not to eat before for a long time, right? Because
Mm.
they feel lighter, they feel more mental clarity, right? And
Hmm.
this all comes from your gut, because if you're digesting over there, down there,
Right.
then all of the energy is focused on your stomach and not here,
Right.
right?
Right. One of the things I've noticed with diet as well is that sometimes you said people will get used to the burgers and the fries and the ice cream, and it feels like that they're fully on it. But then, even worse, when they try to remedy those issues, they will then eat nothing but salad and water for 2 or 3 days, and then they
Oof.
wonder why they don't feel very good. I think,
Okay.
like you said with before, it's like small changes, consistent changes with movement, but also with nutrition as well. Would you
Yes.
agree?
100%. This is the same thing. Like if you go to the gym and start lifting or bench press before you've
Right.
even started moving at all. So again, don't start eating tofu and salad every day, because guess what? You also feel like shit. And why?
Yeah.
Because of a lack of nutrients to your body,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
you come from too much to oversaturation to too little. And then what you're creating is this huge difference. Your brain, your body is so tired. It's like you're dragging your body one way, then you're pulling it in the other way. And all your
Mm.
brain wants is like, find me something for every single day.
Talk about the three pillars you were saying of performance in the nutrition and movement, but then sleep is the final one. And sleep is something that can be definitely immediately perceived. You don't get a lot of sleep, you're going to feel it the next day, of course. But what does sleep really mean in terms of impact on our performance, even just as, like I said, an average ranked player?
Just remember this, that good sleep affects every single function of your body positively, and bad sleep affects every single function of your body negatively. Just let that sink in. Your quality of sleep is going to affect every single function you have in your body and brain
Mm.
to function
Mm.
better, right? And there is a lot of research that talks about like effect on the cardiovascular system, on the cognitive skills. You probably heard of this, but like not sleeping, sleep deprivation can be equal to having, I don't know, 0.6 percent of alcohol in your bloodstream if
Mm.
you're driving a car. So driving sleep deprived is similar to driving drunk. That's how bad
Mm.
it is. So if you already in the morning start off at 40%, how can you expect to have optimal performance, right? And
Right.
think about it, sleep serves us to recover both our body and our mind. Okay, so if we're going to talk about sleep stages, the deep sleep, the stage of the sleep that we have in the first part of our night rest recovers the body, just for sakes of simplicity. And the
Sure.
REM sleep, the latter stage of the sleep, is what recovers your mind for
Mm.
simplicity. Okay, so sometimes when you wake up, and usually people say, "Oh, I woke up and I felt like shit." That's usually the body, because we get to feel that easier. But who tells you? And I've heard this a lot. Oh, I sleep well, and they sleep, I don't know, one day 4 hours, the other day 8 hours, and but they always feel rested. Okay, maybe your body feels rested, but what about your memory, your learning capabilities, your cognitive skills in general? You can't just say, "Oh, I can't remember properly." Like, those things are really like tiny details that sometimes you
Sure.
can't just become aware as you wake up. But if your body feels like heavy and just unwell, that's very easy to notice, right?
Makes
So think
sense.
about that. Sometimes it's not even how you feel in the morning, because it might be that you have impaired sleep that is affecting your cognitive skills, and then you go to play and you have to learn certain matchup or skills of the champion or whatever,
Hmm.
and every day you have to learn the same thing. Well, something's wrong, right? Like, why are
Right.
you not processing this information and
Right.
maintaining it?
Right. I've even heard things like it affects reaction speed and mechanics and even like tilt queuing, things like that. Is that have you seen that to be the case as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Like, driving sleep deprived is similar to driving drunk.
Right.
Obviously, it
Right.
has
Right.
huge impact, right? And
Right.
again, I invite you to try. It's gonna
Right.
feel awful, but and again, okay, one thing, disclaimer when it comes to sleep: all of these things are. Please don't think about it as one-off things. Oh, I go and walk today, thus I'm gonna play better, like immediately. Or today I'm going to eat better. Oh, today is going to be the best day, and then you don't play well. Oh, fuck this food. That's not
Right.
how it works. Again,
Right.
come back to consistency, schedules, day to day. Have it easy for your brain. Create something that you don't have to be constantly adjusting, and just
Right.
stick with.
It feels like to me almost like gardening in a way to where like you can plant a seed, put perfect fertilizer, perfect sun and warmth, but it's going to take many, many days, many weeks, many months of applying that to grow the beautiful plant. And every one day matters, but yet any one day doesn't necessarily immediately get you the result that you want. But if you put the
Correct.
consistency and time in little bit by little bit, not even a lot, but like you said, small little tidbits, that's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, because look, I always said it's not easy, but it's easier to win once than to be in top 10, or sorry, top 2
Sure.
or top 10% for months or years on end. Do you want to just win and then disappear from the map, or you want to stay amongst the top, be a pro player, or be involved in this world for a while, earn a living, and stay? Like, what
Right.
do you want? Like, one time check and then you're gone, or like consistent, um, let's say, input that you're getting by taking care of body and mind day to day.
Right. I mean, I can speak up this from not only the pro players that I've worked with that were able to stay in the league through emotional stability and through the outside habits, but even myself personally, when I climbed from bronze to grandmaster, it took me over a year. And the biggest thing that I did was I already had good, healthy habits, but then bringing those healthy habits into training and playing the same time consistently every day and getting the same amount of sleep. And I think that over the course of time, it wasn't the key thing between me winning that one game, but over the course of a year, hundreds of games were affected by that consistency. So I
Yeah.
guess moving from there into like the more performance psychology side of things, and especially for that's going to be relevant for those of us that aren't necessarily in the Overwatch League or the OWCS now. What are some things that we can learn from somebody like you that maybe works for the pros, but maybe works for the average Joe Schmoes as well?
In the performance psychology topic.
Sure, sure. Beyond nutrition, sleep, and movement.
Yeah. So this last bit that we spoke about, we can call that a mindset.
Okay,
And I hear this very often. Um, you have to have a good mindset.
of
Like, I
course.
hear this a lot in like goal setting, like, or
Yeah,
in the beginning, and I'm always thinking like, what do they mean? by good mindset, right? Like, what
True.
is that type of mindset? So if you think of like research on mindset, there is one thing that is really prevalent, and like you probably have heard of it, is the growth versus fixed mindset by
Hmm.
Carolyn Dweck. A book I would recommend to anyone wanting to just get to know yourself better and to basically work on your mindset. So
Okay.
this is kind of one division, and no, there is no growth mindset is better or fixed mindset is worse or whatever, because you do need to have a certain amount of fixed mindset, and I'll explain in a moment what it is, to combine with the growth to actually have kind of a uh, learning curve and consistency. So basically, growth mindset would mean when you have the belief that you can change your skills, your abilities, you can improve. So it's not static, it's not fixed. It's not like, oh, I was born this way,
Right.
or oh, I love this argument. But I'm like that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're like that? You shit talk your teammates. You're like that. You were born from your mother's womb, and you exited, and you already started like talking behind people's back. No, those things can be learned and unlearned. And also, by the way, unlearning a behavior is very costly for our brain. So expect discomfort, a lot of discomfort. And guess what?
Mm.
Once you feel discomfort, you're doing something well. You're doing something well, because that is hard. It's really hard to unlearn something. So identifying what you should unlearn and why, making it relevant, is really important. So let's say, okay, a growth mindset is kind of open-minded approach to, yes, I can get better, yes, I can change this, no, this is not going to stay like this forever. It's malleable, right? And the fixed mindset is, for example, I am the best at this game because I have the most talent,
Right.
and that's it. And like what I said, oh no, but this is how I am, comments.
Right.
So think about this. Yes, you need to believe that you have a certain level of talent to actually have that confidence combined with other things. But
Hmm.
you need to have that self belief that says,
Hmm.
I'm really good at this, right? I have the talent to do so. But talent is not going to win you games consistently.
So then, what are some things that I can do to improve my mindset when it comes to performance? Because I am only in a solo queue environment if I'm a platinum player or a diamond player, or even let's say I aspire to be a pro player and I'm masters or grandmaster, but I've still got some ways to go. What are some small tweaks? Because we talked about some small changes with sleep, some small changes with my mindset with nutrition and with movement. But what are the accessible aspects of sports psychology that can improve my mindset and improve my level of play?
Every single person has thoughts, things, right? And the amount of thoughts a day, I think there's an exact number, like is more than, but it's like hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
or tens of thousands of
Yeah.
thoughts a day. This is what I call your internal environment, apart from your organs and the health part
Sure.
that we've talked about. So think about it. I told you, you have one body, take care of it. You have one mind, take care of it. And in the metaphor of garden you were using, your mind is your garden as well, right?
Right.
So how often do you actually go up there metaphorically and visit and see, okay, what's around? And these metaphorically, again, what's around things are thoughts. Okay, so let's start from there and let's apply it to mindset. Say, okay, you're sitting alone in your room, you're playing ranks. I bet you that you talk to yourself, even out loud sometimes. But inside, you're
Yes.
maintaining a conversation. Firstly, I want you to kind of recognize now, next time you play, is where is that conversation turned to? Is it, oh, my teammates are trash, how are they playing? Or, oh, these opponents are really bad, I don't want to play anymore, FF. Or is it, I'm bad, or I'm the best? Or like, what is your internal conversation? And obviously, again, it changes, like your thoughts lead you places. But what your thoughts do is that they define your outlook on life, right?
Right.
If it's your internal garden, right? If something that is your internal environment, it will also define your lenses to the outside, right? So if, say, you're playing ranks and all you're focusing on is how good or bad your teammates or the rivals are, what are you going to not lose focus from? From your own
Hmm.
performance,
Hmm.
right? So
Okay.
specifically when you're a ranked player, what do you focus on? And how will you know what you focus on? Where are your thoughts? What am I telling myself when I play? Am I
Right.
Now think about it. Self-talk is a huge topic and is easily accessible to everyone. It happens all the time. Okay, so if you think about self-talk, there is the self-talk that can be instructional. So it can be move there, go there, choose this, pick this, press
Mhm.
this, right? Like basically
Right.
what do you need to do? Very kind of with a purpose to do something, right? So it's focused on
Right.
objective facts. Okay. And then there's a part of the talk that is like motivational. It can be, come on, let's go, you can do it. So it is more on your let's say emotional state.
Right.
Okay, so you always have a combination of both. Now what is usually the most interesting to observe and to check is like, how is my motivational self-talk or that emotional self-talk? Like, how am I talking about myself, right? If you're the person who puts yourself down every day, that's hard to live with that all the time. You know how many critics there are outside. Like,
Right.
why are you like trashing yourself? And beware, this doesn't mean not being self-critical. Without being self-critical, you can't move forward. But how are you talking to yourself when it comes to self-criticism? You can say, oh, I'm so bad at this, I can't do this. Or it can be, oh, here I missed X and Y, next time I need to do Z.
Right. So it's almost
Entirely.
like when we bring that gardening analogy back, it's like it's not going out and seeing your tomato plant being eaten by bugs and being like, my tomato plant is perfect. No, your tomato plant has issues, but actually addressing the issues and dealing with the issues rather than going out there and hitting the tomato plant with a stick and saying that tomato plant sucks and walking away from it. But like
Yeah,
actually addressing the issues overall.
yeah, and it's definitely not taking the plant and throwing it away. No, 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 no. Everything stays in. It's fine. Again,
Right.
you don't have anything bad like within you. Like those things
Right.
are good. And please, when it comes to emotions, remember there's no good or bad emotions. There's comfortable and uncomfortable emotions, and
Right.
they serve a purpose. So
Right.
if you feel angry, I bet you there's a good reason. Or
Right.
maybe the reason is not good because your priorities are not well. So say you will get angry consistently, right? Because you care about this. Now, do you get so angry that you start raging and rage quitting or rage
Right.
queuing or rage whatever or being toxic? This is where your expression of the emotion that is good in itself because it protects you from something. It tells you, hey, we don't like this. Me
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
like this because this is not up to my standard.
Right.
Okay, let's do something about it. But if your anger tells you, hey, we don't like this, it's up to my standard, change something, and then you go and you attack someone else, guess what? You're losing a chance to actually change something from within.
Mm.
Change, not remove. We're not removing fear. We're not removing anger. We are becoming aware of it. So this is where I invite you to start looking inside and check, what do I tell myself? How do I speak to myself? And this is probably you've heard of this, but if you wouldn't talk to your friend like that, that's probably a cue that tells you maybe I should look into this self-talk thing,
Makes
right?
sense. Makes sense. So you can't necessarily control my emotions, but I can help work towards controlling the thoughts that spark from those emotions and maybe change, not replace those thoughts, but change how those thoughts direct me or where those thoughts are focused at.
Yeah, so take an example, like all of the emotions are uh, with us because they serve a purpose. So
Right.
think of the evolutionary, when we were living in the caves as human beings, and there comes a bear or like a tiger or whatever. You're not like, okay, now I have to tune in and be afraid. No, like the
Right.
fear comes at you, like wow. And then what you have is a choice whether you're gonna fight, you're gonna flee, um, you're gonna freeze, and then there is something else that's called fawn. But for the matter of
Sure. Sure.
simplicity, we can stay with the fight or flight or freeze. And this emotion is here to protect us so that we survive, right? And think about it. If we didn't have this fear, if we didn't have this emotion, then, for example, we would stay and just say, oh, hi, bear, hi, friend bear, and then
Right.
you get eaten. Bye bye. No
It'd
more
be
humanity. And we're not
right.
we're not surviving, right? So
Even
think
in a
about it.
video game format, it'd be like if we are playing really badly and we were totally indifferent to that, we would never take that as an opportunity to improve. So when we get angry when we play worse, that can be a productive emotion because it brings to light, hey, there's a problem here. The question is what do you do with that emotion?
Okay, great. So we're here again, and we're going to start. Always, I want you. The tangible thing, more or less, is the thought. Right. So think about it. The emotion is what's gonna pop up. Okay. Boom. Biochemical. Few seconds. Like super intense kind of emotion. First interpretation of that emotion is usually automatic. It's like, oh my god, scared.
Right.
Okay. You can try to interpret it the second time, which is called secondary appraisal. Basically, second time you kind of consider what's going on. So if you're stuck with the automatic first thought on the emotion, say angry, oh my god, he's so bad. Oh, this is like automatic. It's something that comes out of you like an impulse.
Yes.
Okay, but like, what does this comment serve? What is it useful for? I'm just gonna get more angry. Okay, if someone makes a mistake in my team, okay, what can I do with this anger? I care about this guy making a mistake because he's impacting my play as well. Okay, do I have an opportunity to teach, or do I have an opportunity to learn how to regulate this emotion? So you need to find a way to express this emotion. In automatic ways, impulse ways. How we do it is hit the table, scream, write things, all of the things that are pretty much impulsive. What other ways are there to give an outlet to this emotion and to this energy? Think about it. Anger is like a gift of energy, free energy for you. Bam, do whatever you want with it. So in sports, in traditional sports, it's a wonderful gift. I played basketball all my life. Oh my god, when someone steals a ball from me in the offense, and then I go in defense, and I'm stronger and have so much energy, where does it all go? In my legs. I'm the lowest possible in defense. You're not gonna pass me, no way, because I'm like super active. Okay, I understand that during the video games you can't stand up and you can't do anything with your body. Okay, but you can focus all that energy into the next action. Okay, say we made a mistake that probably cost us the game. Okay, the other team can make a mistake as well. Let's make their life a living hell. Let's make it as hard as possible for them to actually take this game home. Maybe they make a mistake and we're back in the game, right? So like you're burning. You're like, okay, use this energy to like think. What is the best next course of action? And guess what? The teammate that made a mistake, they don't feel really great after this if they know what they've done. Okay, so what about helping them? What about showing that you support them? That's never heard of, right? I mean, in ranked, I guess. I think in teams, you know the guy a little bit. There's no anonymity, and that kind of hides it away. So what I'm saying is, you get an emotion, you get kind of a first interpretation of it, first reaction. Okay, but think about it again. Challenge yourself. What can I do with this now? What's useful for me? How can I give an outlet to this? And what is the kind of fastest course of action to correct and to be on a better path? And I think you asked me one question just to add it here.
Sure, of course.
This will seem effortful, and this will take away your attention from technical and tactical aspects of the game. So you can already expect that if you're starting to work on this while you play, it's gonna seem like a little bit of like oof, it's hard. Like in your, oh, I forgot about this. I expect that. You need to give yourself that trial time, because once it gets into a habit where you can actually choose a better course of action after, that might get you to win the game or to learn something new about yourself or about the game, then is when it's going to come naturally to you.
Well, ask yourself, how many games are you losing because you're tilted, or how many bad decisions do you make? How many fights do you lose? So you're basically saying utilize that emotion as a gift of energy to make a decision to weaponize that either productively internally, or even how you focus yourself in the next fight. So I'm now angry because the enemy team punished me for something. I made a mistake. I will now use that anger, that emotion, not my first impulse to get frustrated, slam the desk, but I'm actually going to use that energy to focus even harder with even greater intensity into the decisions that I'm making in game so that I can find value out of that energy that's given.
Yeah, definitely. Just
And
reconsider what you're gonna do with this.
right, okay. So it's not a bad emotion. It's more.
No,
It could be more harmful with what you do with that emotion, but the emotion itself
exactly.
is not negative.
Emotion
Fascinating.
is we need it, right? We wouldn't. So emovere, emotion in
Yeah.
Latin. It's basically gives you energy to move something, to do something
Right.
with all of that, right? So
Right.
like it's kind of ingrained in us. All of us have these emotions, and there's not only anger and happiness, by the way. There's whole other kind of emotions that we can feel during the day. We're not paying attention. So
Right.
this will be like this will be a lifelong learning. Like
Yes.
this is not something you will get right all of a sudden. This is like learning about yourself. What emotions am I experiencing the most? How do they affect me? Like what can I do to learn how to recognize when this emotion is starting to pop up? Say one
Right.
thing. Where do you feel your emotions? Not in
Right.
your head, in your body.
Right.
Feel your emotion in the body. And if you're thinking like, what? Then you're not being aware in the present moment. So try next time to recognize some of the following symptoms that show in your body. Let's take anger as a simple example. First, what happens when you are getting angry as a build up is your heart rate starts getting higher, right?
Mhm.
Your heart rate starts pumping, your heart starts pumping blood. Why? Because if we're angry, we have this extra energy, which
For
means that we
action.
have more oxygen for action to
Right.
fight or to flee. Makes sense, makes total sense. That's one. You can start sweating. What else can? Where can you feel that? Uh, that emotion is something where you need to recognize where do personally feel that emotion as it starts getting up higher. Because hey, this is something that you won't be able to redirect your behavior if your emotion intensity is 10 of 10 and then I tell you calm down. No, hell no. No, you're not going to
Of
be able to if you're at 10. But if you
course.
start feeling, oh, my heartbeat is getting higher, and you catch yourself when it's like intensity 4, you have a lot of opportunity to do something different. But if you're
Right.
at the rage 10 of 10, my suggestion is stand up and leave and come back. Take a break.
Right.
Honestly, like you need to physically remove yourself and give outlet to that energy. So again, with all of we've said, when it comes to choosing actions after you feel that emotion, if you're in such a high intensity, 10 out of 10 of any emotion, it's very hard for you to do something rationally, tactically, tactfully. You're gonna
Right.
do the first thing that comes to your mind because you this is when we say we lose control, like when we're in a
Of course.
rage.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense. Well, Martina, if there's any last points or crucial things that maybe we didn't touch on that you'd love to bring up, because that was really insightful.
Yeah, I will definitely. So I understand that again, most people who are going to listen to this are ranked players. I still believe that all of you pertain to teams. Maybe it's friends, maybe it's
Yeah.
some groups, maybe it's some communities. Maybe some of you have your own teams, and especially again from my teams, we're like 5, 6, or 7, depending on the game. 4 and call it 4 players plus 2 coaches, and if you're really trying to be the best in this at this game, you let's say you don't have much time to dedicate to other things, relationships. You still need to maintain them and take care of them. You still need to have them, yes, but most of the time you're going to spend is with your team, is with your closest group of friends. Be very intentional as to who is in your circle. Be very intentional
Mm.
how you treat your closest circle. My two focuses at work are well-being and performance, and then there's team culture. And what is this team culture? Is the environment we have in wherever we spend our time. How do you feel in that environment? Are you challenged? Are you comfortable? Do you feel judged? Do you feel afraid to make a mistake? All of these things, again, you can work as much as you want on yourself, but if you're in a team, where at the first mistake you get reprimanded or yelled at or screamed at or called different names, it's going to be
Right.
very hard for you to solo bolo this crazy adventure of like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to regulate my emotions. So really be very intentional. Who do you spend your time with? How do you treat your close ones, your team, and communicate? And remember, you have a choice. You can leave, you can find something else, you can say no, right? So think of that. Your environment in the end influences so much of what you do day to day, of how you think, of what you feel. So try to invest in that circle of yours
Mm.
and be intentional. Who do you give your time to? This is the biggest resource you have, your time, right? So think about like, how does my surrounding environment impact me? Okay. And then see like, hey, is this actually a place I want to be? Is this actually the team I want to be at? Do I need to speak with someone in order to ask for things to change because I don't feel supported in this environment? And be
Mm.
careful not to jump to conclusions and say, oh, this guy doesn't make me feel good. Kicked. No. Communication. Honesty. Hey,
Mm.
dude, you're playing really good. I want to team with you. But dude, when this and this happens, I feel like this. Can you please consider, or what do you think about this? Or can we do this?
Right.
Communication. It's really
Right.
important. And again, surrounding environment, it's the key.
So not just necessarily blaming that environment, but understanding that it's so important that I should try to see if I can take some action and effort and communicate my way into fixing my environment, even if it's just the group of friends that I play with.
Yeah, because you're also contributing to that environment.
Right.
Sometimes you can contribute by being quiet, and sometimes you can contribute by being active. So it's all contribution. If you're sitting there like a tree log and do nothing, and then when you shut down the game, you go and complain to your friends or to your family or whatever, oh, what have you done? What
Right.
responsibility have you taken? Okay, so be careful not to go into this victim mode, into the blaming. Always look within. Always first look inside. Give yourself time. There is no like, um, the time is not running out, right? Like,
Right.
be patient.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.